On July 4th, 1854, a group of Minnesotans calling themselves Friends of Freedom gathered for the first time in a small schoolroom in St. Anthony, Minnesota. They were Whigs and Democrats opposed to slavery and corruption in the territorial government, and who believed that only a new political party could accomplish their aims. They founded the Republican Party of Minnesota. Derided by the Democrats for our anti-slavery platform, Republicans held their first state convention in 1855, and in 1856, the first Republicans were elected to office in Minnesota in a wave. It was just a few years later that the 1st Minnesota Regiment found itself on the battlefield at Gettysburg, and the order came to make a charge across an open field against vastly superior Confederate forces, to hold a line or the battle could be lost. They did, with the highest casualty rate of the war, but the line held. The battle was won. Picture it. So here we are, gathered again as Republicans 160 years after the first Republicans were elected in Minnesota. Friends of freedom, like our forebears, and equally committed to those original causes and owning that heritage of the 1st Minnesota Regiment. I'm a basic 4th-generation Minnesotan. I grew up mowing lawns, working restaurant jobs and roofing houses. My wife and I, we come from basic parents, a middle school teacher, a waitress, DNR forester, preschool teacher. Our grandparents and our great-grandparents were Swedish, Dutch, Irish, and Russian immigrants. They were nursing home operators, neighborhood bakery owners, a truck driver, a highway department worker, a Russian immigrant fresh off 4 years as a World War I POW working a small farm with no running water, and a miner who died of black lung way too young. Our parents and our grandparents taught us the basics. You tell the truth, you take responsibility, you get a good education, you work hard, you take care of your family, you love your neighbor, and you give back to your community. We learned the Minnesota ethic, and we have lived the American dream. And on the one hand, we are absolutely nothing special at all. No different than everyone in this room. And on the other hand, every one of us can tell a tale amazing in all of human history. And so it is, with all this shared history and these values, this legacy that we have, that we Republicans have come together this weekend in Duluth. Why? Seriously, why? To what end do we gather? To win elections? Absolutely. Game on this fall in 2016. But there's also so much more. I'm standing before you today because I still believe our Republican principles are noble and sound, our policies are the best for our people, and the stakes are incredibly high. In fact, when we look at the condition of our country after 7 years of Barack Obama, it seems like we face a greatest generation challenge all over again, doesn't it? And Republicans are said to be at a crossroads. We're emerging from and we're still embroiled in this contentious presidential primary. And the political class still derides conservatives. But remember, the 1st Minnesota Regiment didn't back down. They charged across an open field, taking untold casualties. No deals, no political survival strategies, a bold act born of conviction. And we too have that same decision in 2016. Not the life-giving sacrifice of the 1st Minnesota, certainly, but a crossroads for our party and for the choices facing our state and our country. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And as for our wonderful Republican Party, our future is to be found in the same simple, powerful fact it always has been. We are on the side of freedom, and we are on the side of the people. Republicans share the tried and true ethic of everyday folks. Family and faith, enterprise and hard work, loving our neighbor and giving back. We do care. The party of Lincoln believes every Minnesotan is invaluable, and we trust Minnesotans, not bigger government, for our future. The party of Reagan's principles of liberty and justice for all and free enterprise have proven to lift everyone, and our policies advance them. Our ideas work. Yes, we will lead, and we will make America great again. But this is not just about big government, bad deals, leading from behind, fiscal recklessness, and out-of-control taxes. Those are symptoms of a broader decay in our institutions and the personal virtue necessary to sustain a civil society. We also need America to be decent again. I had a chance to hear the two gentlemen who wrote the book 13 Hours and produced the film appear on stage and describe what actually happened in Benghazi. And the story that they told was so different from what we heard from the White House and from Hillary Clinton. A full-out assault, not just on the ambassador's residence, but on the compound where the contract military forces were. Multiple waves, small arms fire, large artillery even. 4 American heroes dead. And what does our Secretary of State tell the families of those fallen heroes? It was a video. What kind of person does that? What kind of person does that? And what kind of party would consider nominating for president a person who did that? This failing Obama-Clinton regime cannot stand. Filled with the false hope 7 years ago that smarter planners, more compassionate bureaucrats, and an inspirational leader would solve our problems. And strangely, voters this year seem to have doubled down, buying even further into imperial presidencies, a collectivist worldview, and massive government to sustain it. An increasing abandonment of our Constitution, the slow destruction of the Bill of Rights, memory loss about our founding principles, people and groups pitted against each other, and the slow drift to becoming a nation of men and not laws. And voters are buying into it. Against every example in world history that proves these collective forms of government compromise liberty, never produce prosperity or lasting stewardship, and almost always devolve to despotism. We're already living with the results. Our economy is stunted, families are strained, the racial divide has worsened, our institutions are suffering, the rule of law is ignored by our leaders, and even our constitutional republic seems at risk. People, the stakes in 2016 are incredibly high. We cannot let this stand. We must fight, and we will. Ultimately, what we're fighting for is in reality even bigger. Our country's founders set the line in just the right place between liberty and order, between public and private, and between federal, state, and local levels of government, conceived in liberty. It's risky, isn't it? It always has been. But we always believed that we, the people, could do it. And not because we're perfect, or because the individual is somehow everything, or capitalism is somehow our salvation, but because people created in the image of God were created to be free. Warts and all, risk and all. And when citizens are free and a limited government fulfills its proper role, we can shine. And our ability to lift up the downtrodden far exceeds any big government program to do the same. This is worth coming together to defend, don't you think? From the beginning, the Republican Party has stood for these things, and we will continue. But we need to win. We need to win. We need to come together to go on offense. Democrats have branded themselves as the party that cares, as though the person who writes the biggest check to government cares the most, and as though it's the folks who are actually leaving us vulnerable to attack that somehow care about us. We're here as the GOP, the Growth and Opportunity Party, to stand strong for the dignity of a job and providing for your family, and to stand strong against the bleak future of a life of endless dependency. And when the Democrats insist that we just need to put more money into their programs and everything will get better, we are going to tirelessly point out that you don't get to hide behind your compassion and your fairness and defend things that flat out don't work and line the pockets of your cronies. It is time to stand up for what is right. We must not bend. We're not going to be held hostage to the political correctness. We're not giving them any more money. In fact, it's time to give it back. No more corruption, no more cronyism. It's time to shut down the class warfare. It's time to restore our Minnesota ethic. It's time to believe in our people again. Remove the shackles of big government. Let our kids dream big American dreams again. Republicans and our candidates will take our cause of growth and opportunity to every corner of this state and every state of this union. We will listen and we will lead, and most importantly, we are going to stand for what elevates the human condition and frees people to exercise their God-given liberty and realize their potential in life. For all of this, and it is so much, I'm asking you to stay together, to remain bullish about our future and hang together for the long haul. In 2016, the Democrats have one thing to fear: a united Republican Party focused on the people and speaking the truth. Not out of fear, but out of bold leadership. Yes, we may face another greatest generation challenge, but we are on the side of the people. Believe it. And what an opportunity we have. What a message we have. And it starts with us, here, this weekend, today.